Hi, this is Matt Carlson. Today we're going to look at a video by Tucker Carlson, and he's being interviewed by Piers Morgan. And he's going to ask some questions about Building Number 7, World Trade Center. Why and how did Building 7 collapse? Let's hear what Tucker has to say.
Huge parts of the 9/11 story were left out of the commission report. For example, what happened to Building 7, which was not only not next to the Twin Towers, which were hit by airplanes, but had a building in between itself and those buildings, collapsed that afternoon for reasons that no one has been able to explain. Since you're not a lunatic for asking, there's no plausible explanation.
Tucker Carlson does say that the 9/11 Commission report does not include anything on Building 7. But 2008, 4 years later, it comes out and it does give a good report on what happened to Building 7. So the 2004 report does not talk about Building 7, but the 2008 NIST report gives an in-depth analysis on the scientific reasons for why Building 7 came down. And on the map, you can see the buildings that were not hit by planes, but still they were damaged and needed to be replaced. Notice Building 5 and 7 were destroyed mostly by fire and not debris. Notice Building 6 right next to Building 7, and it was totally destroyed by falling debris, which spread to Building 7, which is well explained in the NIST report.
If you look into the investigation into Tower 7, the findings of the investigation into it were that the North Tower, when it came down, had set off a load of fires in Building 7. And it was a steel structure and shouldn't have gone down, but it did. That these fires burned all afternoon, and I think it was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon or something. The tower eventually gave way to the welter of fires raging inside it. And it was the only time that had happened to a structure that was built in that way. However, there has been another tower very similar to that structure, which has since gone down in Tehran. So it's no longer the only one. In other words, there is another example of a tower like that collapsing. What is the alternative explanation? I mean, if you're examining another theory, other than the one that the investigation concluded was simply that the North Tower came down, fires were set off in Tower 7, and then it eventually collapsed, what is the other theory which we should give more credence?
I don't know that the onus is on me or anyone who seeks the truth about what happened to come up with an alternative theory. The onus is on federal authorities to explain why, for example, they never investigated.
I can't believe Tucker Carlson said that, but a preliminary report was issued in 2008. That's 17 years ago, and it's been updated a couple times since then. So Tucker Carlson is not telling the truth.
Why, for example, the rubble and the steel from that building was carted off within hours and sent out of the country to Asia.
Tucker Carlson has not done his homework. He's lying on that. The debris from the World Trade Center Building 7 was sent to Fresh Kills Landfill in Staten Island in New York for processing and sorting.
Why, for example, an analysis done not by kooks, but by chemists, found traces of explosive material in the dust from that day.
Different types of materials, from fertilizers to different processed materials, could be the reason why there's evidence of high temperature corrosion that attacked the steel. Thermite-related materials may have been discussed online communities. The scientific and engineering consensus is that they were not the cause of the collapse. NIST found no evidence of explosive materials. According to NIST, video and photographic evidence combined with the detailed computer simulation show that neither explosives nor fuel oil fires played a role in the collapse of Building 7.
Why structural engineers who have kind of no skin in this game came to the conclusion that just couldn't happen based on all available evidence.
Tucker Carlson is full of baloney. Tucker needs to check the credentials of the people in the NIST report who have a couple of PhDs in structural engineering. Compare that with the architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, founded by Richard Gage, who's an architect and not a structural engineer. You'll find out most of the engineers on the 9/11 for Truth organization are civil engineers and have no background in structural engineering. Richard Gage left the Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth in September of 2021 after being criticized for remarks he made suggesting vaccines were poisonous and allegations of anti-Semitism.
And that none of that is addressed at all or even mentioned in the 9/11 report. So, and there are all kinds of anomalies, as I know that you're fully aware, and there are possible explanations to explain all of them. For example, the BBC report on air saying the building had fallen when it hadn't fallen yet.
Now think about this. The report was in error and Reuters retracted it. Now, wouldn't Tucker Carlson want to mention that if he was being honest? Of course, he's not being honest.
There are all sorts of reasons to wonder, like, what the hell is this? But it's not incumbent on us to provide explanation. It's incumbent on the people running the government.
So Tucker Carlson is pretending that there's been no 9/11 report and no HIST report that has proven and given solid explanations to why those buildings had fallen. So in conclusion, their claims, the architects and engineers in 9/11 truth, have been proven false, and all wild conspiracy theories of controlled demolition of building WTC-7 or other buildings lack support among relevant professional communities. On Tucker, wake up and start telling the truth.